Awesome. So we are live. Welcome to the Hive Chicago new member orientation. Today's orientation is going to cover some of the basics about Hive membership, what it means to be a member, how that's different from uh, being just a member of our community. Hive is a wide community of many different individuals and organizations, and so membership is a very specific form of engagement in the Hive. We'll go through what that means and some of the ways to be engaged as a member. Before we get started, I just wanted to welcome our viewers, people who are watching, and provide some quick instructions. So if you are joining us now, and I'll repeat these again in a few minutes, through our Google Plus page, which is probably the best place to join in this, to watch this Hangout, then you will find a Q&A feature on that website, on the Google Plus page, and I'll try to insert the link in a few minutes while other people are speaking. You can use that Q&A feature to ask questions. Those questions will show up in a queue, and as I get through the program, when I reach a point where I can answer those questions, I will mark that I'm answering them, and that actually tracks when I answer the questions so that people in the future can see when I answered certain questions, and it's a nice way to break up the video for others to dig right into places where they might be interested. So please make use of that Q&A feature, and if you are a new member watching this right now passively, check your email inbox for a link to join the Hangout. And so without further ado, I want to introduce some of the people who have joined the Hangout today, beginning with the director of Hive Chicago, Mr. Sam Dyson. Sam, why don't you say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Then we'll go around. Okay. Well, Sam said hi, so there you go. And usually the person speaking pops up in the video, but you didn't seem to appear. I think I talked over you. Okay, so we have Sam, the director of Hive. He's going to say a few words in a moment. We also have Donnie. Donnie, do you want to say hi and where you're from, what your organization is?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Donnie Smith, and I am the executive director of Donda's House, which is an artist development program for
Awesome.
teens.
Very, very cool. Donnie from Donda's House, and we also are joined by Marcia from the Impact Family Center. Marcia is not available on the mic right now, but she's joining us in the actual Hangout, so she'll be able to ask questions. But she's being vocal in our back channel chat here. So if you are a new member, check your email for a link to join. If you're just jumping on and watching right now live, then you could use the Q&A feature to queue up questions so that I can answer them throughout the video. And so I wanted to give Sam, the director, a moment to welcome you and say a few words about Hive Chicago.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Hi, Marcia and Donnie. And for others who watch this later and connect, we are excited to have you. We are targeting this both to the folks who have just joined the Hive, and to those folks we want to say thank you for taking the step toward membership in the network, but also, just like many of the things we do, we're broadcasting this and working in the open so that people who may not be members of the Hive can find out a little bit more about it. Just 2 years ago, we actually didn't even have a membership process in the network, and so it's not been long that this status of formal membership has even existed. And Hive is not a club. The membership is not an exclusive right or something that's meant to be restrictive. What it's really helped us do is to communicate to individuals and organizations what the expectations are for ways in which you can engage in the network in ways that really bring back benefits for you as a professional serving teens in the city of Chicago and as an organization. So membership takes effort, but it has many benefits, as we'll talk about today. And ultimately, as we come together in membership, it's really helping to redefine what collaborative professional learning and problem solving look like. And we want to remain continuously focused on serving teens in this collaborative way that allows us to build solutions together in ways that we can't do alone. So we're excited for everyone who's stepped up toward membership, and hope to continue to invite those for whom membership doesn't make sense right now, but they still want to be engaged in the network and partner with us. So thanks.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate those words and the general sense of what Hive Chicago and our membership are moving towards. And I think the sentiment about Hive being a professional learning community is an important one, and we'll go through that. And I think it's a good place to start to just note that Hive as a professional learning community is a wide open opportunity for any interested educator in Chicago, interested organization to get involved in certain ways. But membership conveys specific benefits. And so you'll hear us say this a couple times because it's important to realize that just because an organization is not a member of the Hive does not mean they don't have a place in the Hive network, or they don't play an important role, or that you aren't or that members aren't expected to engage outside of the membership. So that's an important part. But we'll go through what it means to be a member and sort of how we perceive that as unique from being a community member at large, or a community partner, or ally is really the right word, at large. So without further ado, I kind of wanted to get into the process. So talk about how we actually are going to go through this orientation, which will begin as a slightly passive experience. I'm going to do a lot of talking and just showing you documents and showing you stuff that I feel like it's important for members to be aware of and know to be effective in the network and to maintain good communication. But at some point we're going to transition, hopefully within a half hour or so, into more of a Q&A experience. Oh, I think that's Mike Norse who has just joined us. So is that right, Mike?
That's right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could see your glasses just a little bit before, so I wasn't sure.
Hey, Mike.
Hi.
Awesome.
Sorry for
Eve
my
has joined us too.
sorry for my delinquency or lateness.
No delinquency, don't worry about it. And we're also joined by Eve Tolbert. So Mike Norse from the Hyde Park Arts Center and Eve Tolbert from Freedom Games. So Mike and Eve, just since we're getting going here, and I'd like to proceed, if you guys could mute your audio until you have a question or a place where you'd like to interject or slow me down or stop, and then I'm happy to pause and give you a chance to engage. You can also use the Q&A feature, which is along the left-hand side menu of the video screen. So if you click into your video screen, you'll get a menu where you can find a way to mute your audio and add Q&A, so add questions that I will answer later in the video. So what I was saying was a little bit about how this is going to work. I'm going to go through a slightly passive me talk at you and show you a couple things. Resource sharing segment that hopefully won't last more than 20-30 minutes, and then I was going to do a more dynamic Q&A where I'm going to answer questions. So if at any point this is totally redundant and you already know about all this stuff, feel free to absorb it passively, but at some point we're going to transition into active questions. In the meantime, you can queue up your questions using the Q&A. I've said that a lot of times, but I want to make sure that anyone watching, whether they joined us on time or late or later, is able to engage in that way. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to get started. I don't have any slides for today, and I did that not just because I'm lazy, but because I think it is important to use the resources that are available to you already to go through this orientation. So we've done our best to provide a wealth of resources through our website. So what I'm about to do is show you some slides from our meetup to begin with, our last member meetup, that I think might be relevant. But then when we get into the actual resources of the network, I'm going to take you through the website. So I'm about to screen share and show you what's on my screen, which is going to be our website and a set of slides. And I might jump in back and forth. And you can follow along on my screen to see which parts of the website I'm using to guide you through this. And you could also actively go on the web and click through our website as you please. So I'm going to start that screen share now, and hopefully you'll see it clearly, and we can proceed. So the first thing I'm showing you are slides from our recent meetup. We have monthly meetups at the third Thursday of every month. I'll go through that in a second. And at the last meetup, we shared some slides that I thought were kind of nice, that sort of summarized the state of Hive Chicago recently with our new members. So some of the members who are joining us today, and those of you who are watching, are amongst 11 new members to the Hive. This January, after a several-month process, we expanded from 57 organizations to 64. There had been some changes, and we are happy to welcome 11 new members. In addition to membership, partner or affiliate members, and we'll go through what that means in more detail, we also have allies. And allies are member institution, or partner, sorry, allies are community organizations or other organizations that find affinity with Hive Chicago and want to support us in a way in extending our mission or increasing our resources or our capacity to serve youth in Chicago, which is the goal of Hive Chicago. And so allies are not fully vested members in the way that I'll explain, but they're an important part of our community that we would like to grow. So as new members, that's something you might want to think about, is what other allies we can bring. An ally is also a nice way of becoming a member. So becoming an ally will get you engaged in some of our communication channels and is a good stepping stone towards membership. So yeah, so congratulations to our new members, and we are, so sorry, just one second, getting distracted. Oh, I see, comments are being made, so I just wanted to make sure I followed this. Great. So our new members included some great organizations, some of which are here with us today, and some of who were not able to make it today, but hopefully will be watching later. Here's the list of our current new members. And our general member profile is an interesting thing to look at. We are well distributed across the city, but there's still room for growth, and that's something that we're really thinking about and trying to do actively. Find more partner member organizations throughout the city of Chicago that provide us more equitable distribution of resources around the city. And then lastly, the last sort of piece that I wanted to share about our network is a little bit about the size in terms of financial, staff, and programs. So youth programs, youth served in programs. And so these are just some quick numbers to give you a sense of the median organization. So what, not the average, because our average are skewed high by some of the large members of our organization, but the median organization, which gives you a better sense of what a typical Hive member looks like, is a moderate-sized organization. It's not huge, but it's a respectable size. So that gives you a sense that a great number of our members are small community-based organizations or small nonprofits, but we do have some very, very large members in our network as well. Network members that include the Chicago Park District, the public libraries, After School Matters, the Museum of Science and Industry, and other large organizations that provide us incredible reach and resources. So that's about it for the slides from the meetup that I wanted to show you guys. So the next thing I'm going to transition into is actually taking a look at our website. And so the reason the website is an important asset for our conversation today is that everything I'm going to talk about right now is on our website. So there's no need to worry about rewatching this video to some extent after you've watched it, because hopefully all of the resources that you need to find are located on our website. And so I didn't quite start off at the beginning, which is how I might usually start off, by telling you what our network goals and what our network mission, vision, and goals are. So that's a place that I'd like to go to now, which is which you can find on our website under About Hive Chicago Goals. And so Hive Chicago, at the core, is about the youth experience. Everything we do is about improving the resources available to young people in Chicago to have a connected learning experience where they can follow their interest-driven pathways through learning, and that's really the core of our work. However, to get to that core, to that mission, which is to transform the learning landscape of Chicago, to become a more connected learning ecosystem, to get to that core mission, we work through organizations in Chicago that provide direct service to young people, and the professional educators and service providers at those organizations. So when we talk about Hive, that's something to keep in mind. We're talking about the youth experience and building that youth experience and transforming that learning landscape, and we're doing it through the professionals, the educators, and the organizations in the city of Chicago that can make that a reality. And the beautiful thing about the Hive network is the way in which we are constructed from that membership, from those organizations that invest in the network. It's a member-driven initiative. Our goals come directly from our members, and we have 4 of them. You will hear us repeat this again and again if you spend time with us. Our 4 goals include providing equitable access to resources for all Chicago youth, and this means both distributing the resources we have, but also reaching out to populations that are underserved by us or traditionally to get those resources to them. So it's not just about, say, making resources more available, but it's also about accessing those individuals who need them. It's a two-way street. The second goal is around learning pathways, which is a complicated subject in and of itself. But the idea around learning pathways is creating an experience where young people are able to leapfrog from learning opportunity to move in a connected and fluid way along their interest-driven directions, or directions that are driven by their interests. So that's difficult because individual schools or individual organizations may not have all of the assets available to them to create a learning environment that is rich enough for young people to really follow every one of their interests. But as a city, as a unit, when you consider the city as a unit, the hundreds of organizations and the thousands of schools and learning centers around the city of Chicago that work with young people are a network that can help make this a reality. Our third is about sustained innovation, and that's not innovation for the sake of new things. That's innovation to make a transformation. The current structures that limit young people in their pursuit of learning, that obstruct pathways or obstruct access to resources, are ingrained systems in our society, in our city, in the way in which we operate and the way our organizations perceive their contributions. And so innovation is an important part of transformation, and that's why we're innovating, not just to do the shiny new thing, but to do the thing that can make this transformation a reality. Our last goal is an important one, and it's around demonstrated value. And I won't dwell too deeply on this, except to say that if we cannot demonstrate the value that our network produces for the greater context of the city of Chicago, then we're really just serving ourselves. And so it's about being external and thinking about our contributions more broadly. So those are our goals. I wanted to say them out loud. I think they're an important thing to repeat whenever we have these kinds of convenings. And I may not go into so much detail about everything else that I feel like new members should be aware of. Now, Hive has different contributors to the network, different stakeholders that include the membership, but also include grant-making organizations like the Chicago Community Trust, and funders that make our activities a reality, that support the Hive staff and our goals and our mission, and the context-setting organizations. So our main stakeholders are under the stakeholder tab over here, and they include the MacArthur Foundation, the Chicago Community Trust, and the Mozilla Foundation, each who play a very important role in our work. You can learn more about these organizations here. And I think the most important thing to note at the moment is that Hive Chicago staff are actually staff members of the Mozilla Foundation, which means we're employed by Mozilla. There's a really important reason for that, and it has to do with the way in which we operate, which I will get to shortly, the way in which you try to build a network and an experience for adults that mirrors connected learning in the way we want to see it for young people, which also mirrors what Mozilla wants to see in its community of the open web. By the way, today the FCC passed rules that are going to preserve the free and open web. It's a very exciting day in the world of the web. So a small aside, but something worth noting, something you could take a bigger look at. And I'm proud to say that Mozilla had a very strong role to play in preserving a free and open web for everybody. And so this isn't just a pitch for my parent company, but it is really a very exciting day and a historic day for communications and human knowledge transfer and everything that the internet is important for. So check that out in the news today, but I'm not going to dwell on it. So you can find a lot of information here about our mission, vision, goals, and I just want to make sure that you find our contact information because sometimes people want to know. If you go under Connect, there's the Contact Us page. It needs a little bit updating, but there is currently information about our staff and our advisory committee, which will be updated shortly. I wanted to stop for a second and talk about the advisory committee before I sort of conclude this section about the Hive Learning Network. And I wanted to note that the advisory committee is a very important part of how we work. So we seek feedback and input from our network members through a variety of different contexts, including meetups. But the advisory committee is a small group that really steers us and provides us a more direct and impactful face-to-face interaction with our membership. They are the representatives of our members' needs, desires, frustrations, and they're an important mechanism that we use to understand what we're doing and whether it's having an impact. So if you ever have any concerns about what's happening or questions about how we're moving forward, reaching out to an advisory committee member is a valuable asset, and we're actually working to assign each new member an advisory committee mentor. That will be happening at our next meeting the second week of March. The advisory committee meets monthly, and at that meeting we will talk to them about their mentor organizations, and you will find out about that soon. So hang tight for your organizational mentor. Advisory committee members are selected on a rotating basis from member organizations, Hive member organizations, and every Hive member organization is expected to field a advisory committee member if they're called upon to do so. And those members are nominated by the membership. So we will have a nomination process actually soon to fill Hallie Gordon's spot. She recently vacated her position after her 18-month term came to a conclusion, and we're looking to fill that seat with a new advisory committee member for the next 18 months. So stay tuned for advisory committee opportunities. All right, great. So that's a lot about the Hive. I'm going to stop for a second, pause, and just see if we have any questions from either the audience or from people who are participating in the Hangout directly. So Eve, Mike, and Donnie, if you have any questions to ask, or anybody from the audience. Go for it, Mike.
Sure. I'm curious what the breakdown of the organizations, how you define them in terms of, we come obviously from a visual arts background, even though we touch on other areas. And I'm just kind of curious how the breakdown of people in Hive looks that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, when we do a yearly data collection process with all our members, which, oh, sorry, Mike, do you mind muting?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Just feedback. It's okay. Thanks. So we do a data collection process where we ask our members to sort of self-define their core competencies and the kind of organization they are. For the map that I showed you that has our members laid out on the city of Chicago, the easiest categorization for our membership is around sort of the type of institution, whether it's community-based organization or a university. That's the sort of easiest level of categorization, so we stuck there. We do have data on those sort of focus areas, disciplines, or core competencies. I haven't made that public or crunched it yet. So that's an interesting thing that we should take a look at. the only insight I would share on that is it's a very diverse group of organizations, and I think it's difficult for some organizations to define themselves as, say, just an arts organization or just a media organization, or is a media organization count as an arts organization, or vice versa? And then what about an organization that does STEM programming but does it in a way that it heavily utilizes media and art? So that way of sort of sorting out who our members are is a challenge because of how they self-identify and how we want to identify them. But it's an important place to note that part of the connected learning ethos or philosophy is one that promotes what I would call or what many people call transdisciplinary experiences. So experiences that bridge traditional disciplines, that use art to do science, right? Those kinds of things. And so while that breakdown is really interesting, and I appreciate the interest, and I definitely want to get that out there because we have some data on that, I do want to kind of point out that one of the exciting things about our network is the intent to transcend those boundaries. So I'm gonna count that as the question for this section, so I can keep moving. But we will stop and do just like pure Q&A pretty soon, and at that point we'll just keep riffing on things. But if you have questions like Mike's about the composition of our network or the goals or the mission or anything, use the Q&A feature of this Hangout to just as a notepad where you can put those questions and I can get to them later as we proceed through the Hangout. So I hope that was helpful and a good pause, but I'm going to go back to the boring screen share of the internets, which I hope is helpful so that we can navigate the website a little bit and get to know where some of these resources live in case questions come up later or in case you want to share this information with others. So I think one of the most important elements of the Hive, and something that Sam's hinting at, is not just it's not just the way in which we structure ourselves as a community forum. It's not just the events that we may or may run. It's not just the funding that you might be able to access through the Hive Chicago Fund. It's actually what we're trying to build as a platform, a structured platform for innovation, one that can bring solutions to challenges in education. So Sam has a really nice blog post about Hive Chicago as a platform. I'm trying to find it, of course, now. I didn't have it queued up, and I should have. But it is linked from our homepage, I believe, so I'm going to go there. And if you flip through, oh, wow, it is no longer linked there. So Sam had a great blog post that was about Hive Chicago as a platform. So I want to find it for you guys, and I guess this is a great moment to just take a second and learn how to navigate the website and look for things. So I just use the search feature at the top right corner to search platform to find Sam's blog, which he called Hive as a platform for building solutions. It's a great post that kind of talks about this platform vision for us, and you should take a look at it and read through that. I think it's a great summary of what we're going for. But the idea here is a mechanism by which we can source the common challenges, the persistent issues that face our network, and provide the resources and the structure by which we can advance solutions to those challenges. So both sourcing the challenges and the solutions and bringing those together is what we're really trying to do. One of the most important elements of that platform is our fund. So under About, you can click on the Hive Chicago Fund, and there you will find some information about our relationship to the Chicago Community Trust, where the Hive Chicago Fund is housed, and the way in which we use that fund to promote our work or to advance our work. Every year we have 2 RFP cycles, so 2 requests for proposals that are issued by the Hive Fund for Connected Learning, the Hive Chicago Fund for Connected Learning. And those RFPs are posted here. The 2015 round 1 RFP was the last one that was posted on February 2nd. Sorry, it was due on February 2nd. It was posted in November of 2014. And those proposals are currently under review, and grants will be awarded in April. There is another round that will be released in 2015, round 2 of 2015, in March, on March 2nd. And when that becomes released, it will be released as this one on the Hive Chicago Fund tab of the Hive Chicago website. So you can look here. It will replace the current link at the top. I should edit that to say closed, but we get to things as quickly as we can. So the fund is an important part of our platform, but it is not the entire platform. It's not the entire platform because there's not enough funding to go around for every organization and every idea that we have about how we can improve our work, and that's a meaningful thing. I mean, there's not always unlimited resources to try new things, external resources like that. It's also complicated. Submitting a proposal to the fund is not always easy, and it requires building a set of competencies and skills that are sometimes new to members of our network. And so we are working hard to find new and different ways of both broadening our resources so that the fund is an important but not isolated and singular resource, but also scaffolding the process of bringing projects to the fund or deriving value from the fund, broadening that a little bit. So an important part of that are two elements that I wanted to talk about. One is the moonshots, which if you've been to Hive meetups in the last year, you've definitely heard about our moonshots. And the other is our project portfolio. So I'm going to start with the moonshots because I think they're the entryway into the fund. They're a great way to experiment with ideas, a great place to get feedback from your peers, and to explore some of the important challenges in our network, to frame how you might bring a proposal to the fund. And I'm going to end with the portfolio, which is in some ways the exhaust of that process, what comes from that funding stream. So the moonshots are part of our effort to what we call work in the open. And working in the open is a concept or set of practices that are related to like open source coding and the spirit of the open web. It's a way in which individuals work in sight of others and communicate their process, not just the final product, but the process of their work to others, and invite input from a community into their work as they're doing it. That is a complicated process. That's not an easy way to work, right? Inviting input from others can be frightening. It can be intimidating. It can be complicated. Integrating that feedback in a meaningful way can be extremely challenging. That feedback sometimes comes too late, sometimes comes too early. And so we don't expect our members to be naturally gifted in this area, and it's not a traditional way in which organizations work, and it's not always the most effective strategy for every project. But it is a competency that we're committed to building, and it is an effective tool for spreading good ideas. Inviting others to participate in the creation of some artifact or some product is a very natural and meaningful way to get buy-in from that community in engaging with that product when it's done. So it's something we're committed to, and it's part of what makes us such an integrated part of Mozilla, is that the spirit of the open web is the spirit of the open hive. It's the same philosophy. And then, of course, and because I'm on the topic of Mozilla for a second about working in the open, the other element that connects us to Mozilla, aside from working in the open, is that connected learning is empowered. A connected learning ecosystem is highly enriched by web literacy. When young people understand how to find resources on the web, their ability to create connected learning experiences and follow their interests is highly amplified. So the web literacy content and mission and pedagogical tools and products that Mozilla produces around web literacy are essential competencies for young people, are essential to building competencies for young people that empower them to have a more connected experience. So working in the open and web literacy are two pieces that are very important to our connection to Mozilla and what makes us relevant. And the moonshots, which is where I was going, the moonshots are the part of working in the open that we have structured for our network to start to source some of those challenges and solutions. And over the last year, we went through a process of asking our membership what were the boots on the ground challenges that they faced on a day-to-day basis when it came to enacting a connected learning experience for their young people. It's a very beautiful vision that we have and a very beautiful mission that we have, but when it comes to execution, we run into persistent challenges. And these included a meaningful connection to the academic and school experiences of young people, a meaningful connection to parents and young people's home life, a meaningful channel for young people to provide input on the experiences that we're creating for them. Because after all, if we're going to create a truly youth-driven pathway experience, a connected experience for young people, we can't do that in a vacuum. It has to be done with youth voice. There's also challenges around getting the information out to people. How do people learn about these experiences? How do you even find them if they're on the web? Are they on the web? In many cases, our opportunities are not on the web. And the Chicago City of Learning is one incredible initiative that is attempting to make that learning ecosystem visible to young people, their families, and their schools, which is why it's such a valuable asset to the Hive. And there's a lot more we can do to build that competency and find complementary channels to extend that initiative. Transportation's a major issue. If you find the thing you want to do, how do you get there? And finally, data, or what we call the think tank moonshot, is an important part of all of this work, because in order to understand whether or not we're filling the gaps in equity and pathways in programming that our young people need, we need to be able to evaluate our successes in executing on those things. So those were our moonshots. And in each moonshot page, and I'll come to an end on moonshots in just a moment, in each moonshot page, you will find a call to action that summarizes that moonshot and describes the area that these people are working in. A list of accountable and responsible members. These are people who are leading the execution of this moonshot, the curation of solutions to this challenge, and the design of those solutions to become effective. Accountable members are not necessarily doing all of the work, and that's a cultural shift we need to work on, but they are curating the environment for other people to bring solutions. Responsible members are executing more of the work. They're doing the do part of those solutions. They're building the solutions. Each moonshot also has what we call a repository. Repository is a common term in programming and stuff like that, and it suits this particular area of work, because in this case, the moonshot repositories are a space where we can collect ideas that's hosted on one of our network members, Civic Artworks' website. So for each moonshot, there is a space where that moonshot can collect ideas around solutions to their challenges. It's a public space, which means it can be shared with anyone on the web, and anyone on the web can read these ideas, provide feedback, and support them. We're still developing how we use this space, but the Civic Artworks repositories for each moonshot are an incredibly important part, because that's where we seed solution ideas. You'll find other important things on this page around seed solutions and exemplary solutions and related blog posts. And it's worth noting at this point that the exemplary solutions will connect to the next part of what we're talking about. So I'm going to actually pause here for a second again for any questions that the audience might have or the members who are currently on the call. So I'm going to stop my screen share for a moment and open the mic to Donnie, Eve, Mike, or the Q&A section for those who are watching. Okay, there's no harm in pausing, so I'm going to give it another second if you guys think about anything you want to ask. And I'm also taking the opportunity to read the comments in the chat screen to make sure. Awesome. Okay. So I see that I may have messed up the screen share for some time there, Donnie. Thank you for pointing that out. And Eve, I hope the sound is working out for you, but it sounds like it might just be excellent. Very good. All right, so I'm going to proceed into the next section because I think the moonshots are a great way to introduce our next part. So to provide some continuity and connectedness between these different areas of Hive work. So I had talked about the fund as a place where you can bring proposals for funding and get access to resources that enable you to enact your project proposal ideas. The ultimate goal of the moonshots is to curate solutions that can potentially lead to good proposals to the fund. This is if the moonshot groups are used to our advantage, then they begin to source those ideas that would make hot projects that would be ripe for funding. Now, not all the ideas are going to require funding, and some of these projects have been able to be executed already by leveraging community assets and resources that are already available, either by using our members and the assets that they have available within their organizations to execute a solution to a moonshot, or by reaching out into the broader community, reaching out to other organizations with expertise or know-how who are not necessarily members, who may not even serve young people, but have expertise in this field. For example, one place I have been seeking support on some of this work has been at the OpenGov Hack Nights, which happen at the Merchandise Mart every Tuesday of every month from 6 to 9 p.m. And it's a group of civic-minded programmers, developers, marketing folks, technologists who gather every week to solve civic problems. And some of them are really interested in the problems and solution ideas that we're sourcing in the Hive. Finding those other resources that can help us attack these solutions is what makes the moonshot space potentially a more powerful and broader area of working in the open than just the fund by itself, because of the limitations of the amount of funding and the structure of the request for proposals. When the structure of the moonshots is meant to promote ideas, and so ideas enter the moonshot as seed solutions. They're the early stages of, they're an idea, actually ideas enter as ideas on civic artworks, which are more or less equivalent to seed solutions. The moonshot page curates a couple of those ideas. So seed solutions and ideas on civic artworks are essentially the same thing, and they're not well formed yet. When they become well formed, or when they're ready for execution, they mature into exemplary solutions. So the CTA Transit Audio project, which I'm showing here on the Transportation Moonshot page, is one example of a solution that we would call exemplary because our members sought to actually execute on this solution. So Free Spirit Media, in partnership with the Transportation Moonshot Group, actually started a project to collect short media productions from young people to curate short media, short audio productions from young people about their transit stories. You can find these on the Real Shy Youth website. They're amazingly cool. Let me actually flip over to that. Real Shy Youth, I think is what it is. So realshyyouth.com, we'll make the connection on the website to it. But realshyyouth.com has been collecting these transit stories. So hopefully you can see in the screen an example of a moonshot seed solution that matured into an exemplary solution without actually getting direct funding from the trust. So that's how we envision the moonshot solutions creating and working in the open environment. Once those solutions become exemplary, they become part of our portfolio. So the CTA Transit Audio project is a moonshot solution in our portfolio. And there are a couple that have emerged so far, and we hope that more will in the near future. And you can find it down here. The rest of the projects in our portfolio are funded projects that came through different funding sources at the Chicago Community Trust, Hive, Chicago Fund for Connected Learning. So you can see for different rounds, different projects that were funded. There are also occasionally special project opportunities, special funding opportunities, and we have a couple legacy projects up here that predate our website refresh, and so we've rehosted them as legacy projects, or that are persisting in their utility. One great example of a legacy project is the Yollocalli Badge Guidebook. For those of you who are thinking about creating badges for your youth, you can click into one of these portfolio project pages to learn more about the project, and in fact get redirected when they're complete to artifacts that were created as part of the project. So I've just clicked through to the Yollocalli Badges Guidebook, which is hosted on this website outside of the Hive website. And so you can think of the project portfolio as your portal into Hive member projects. It doesn't collect all of the resources, but it collects the important resources that create a breadcrumb trail for members of our community to learn more about our work and to potentially access the resources that they can use in their programs. So the portfolio represents where the moonshots potentially represent where we source ideas. The portfolio represents the exhaust of that platform process. So the moonshots in many ways are the foundation of our platform, and the portfolio is the apex. It's the place where we've actually come to completion on some things. I haven't described the entire working of the open process. We have a blog. Our blog is member-driven. That means, yes, Hive staff are often posting to the blog, but members of our community like Christine, like Ermania, like Jennifer Steele, and Jen Bundy have also posted blog posts to our blog, and we invite all of our members, our new members, and even members of our community, a broader community, allies, to post on our blog. So consider doing that if you've got some story you'd like to share, and that's a great place where when you're halfway through a project, not at the end, but in the middle of it, to post the story of your work and to share with others the process by which you're trying to complete your project. Okay, this is another great place for me to pause and just take some questions from people. So if you guys have any questions, I think potentially the whole time I was talking, I may have been broadcasting the Hive logo and not the screen share of the website. So let me know if that's the case. Were you guys able to see the website while I was doing that or no? Oh, excellent. I'm not sure if people online were able to. Unfortunately, I think I may have been only screen sharing that to people who are watching this, who are participating in the Hangout. So if you're watching this online in a passive way, you may have not seen all of those website components. So I'm going to flip through them really quickly, again, just to make sure everyone gets to see them, and then I'm going to sort of move on to the next section. But before I do, Mike, Eve, Donnie, got any questions? Anything you wanted to sort of comment on or get clarified?
I do have a question.
Sure.
Sure. So when it comes to the moonshots, is there ever going to be a process where those are revisited? And so, is it something that you think the current moonshots are going to kind of be the moonshots forever? Or is there a plan to review and maybe even add like more in the future?
I think that's a great question. Oh. You want? Thanks, Donnie. Should have just paused for a second there. I hate hearing my own voice. It's so terrible. So I think it's a great question because it's a really hard one, and no diversion here. Yes, I think we'd like to revisit the moonshots. I think we'd like to redefine what those are. We had a vision for what this process would look like, and it's a complex vision, and so our ability to articulate what we had in mind was limited, and our members' ability to engage with this process has also been limited because not everybody can make every meetup, and not everybody can be on the advisory committee, and not everybody has space to be an accountable member of a moonshot. These are affordances that are a very limited resource. And so the current state of moonshots is in a place where I think Hive staff, for sure, are very happy with the moonshots that we have, and I think our network members find affinity within a moonshot. I don't think we have a lot of people who are just can't find a place where they can make a meaningful impact or where they find a relevant issue. However, the best moonshots are those that are achievable. And in many ways, some of our existing moonshots are still a little bit too aspirational. They are the kinds of challenges that may be persistent in a way that we can only chip at. So there's an interesting opportunity to redefine our moonshots in the future and to think about important obstacles to connected learning that we have not named, and also to scale some of these moonshots in a way that is potentially more achievable. We don't want to be so achievable that we're not interesting, but we don't want to be so ambitious that these become sort of like meta, inaccessible goals, you know, like equity, for example. One of our goals, not our moonshots, but equitable access to resources, is the kind of thing that's aspirational. When is equity truly ever achieved? Equity is an evolving process, and as our society shifts, the people in need will shift as well, and so, or the places of need, or the neighborhoods change, you know. So equitable access is always something that you're striving towards. So the best moonshots are going to be the things that we can really, at the end of the day, say, hey, we solved that. But also be like big enough that they're interesting. Anyway, I don't know if that was helpful. I guess I don't have a date when we might be revisiting the moonshots, but I will say this. I think for this year, our goal is to get the process down and get the culture down, so make sure that our network is familiar with these things and comfortable with them. Revisit them at Hive Chicago Buzz, which is going to be our annual event, our annual hack day, to work on these challenges. And then maybe next year, I think, is a good time to say, you know, is this process working? And if it is, let's iterate and think of some new challenges. But keep that in, Donnie, I mean, definitely keep that in the back of your head. What would be those new moonshots? Talk to other people about them. Redefine the existing ones. Those websites are not chiseled in stone. They're websites. They're editable. They're editable by our members, and the accountable members of each moonshot have admin login privileges to our website to make those edits directly. So if at any point some of this stuff doesn't resonate with you and you want to make a change, you're empowered to do so. But let's see how we can make these work in the meantime. Okay, so that was my answer to that. Okay, so I'm going to move to what I think is just sort of my last two segments, and I think I'll probably be done talking. That was longer, of course, than I predicted. But I hope to be done talking in the next 10 or 15 minutes tops, and I think that's an accurate number. Because the last two things I want to talk about is how to connect with the Hive, and lastly, sort of like to close out with what membership means. And so the connecting to the Hive is actually pretty easy. I'm going to blow through that because connecting with the Hive begins with the website. And so I've been spending a lot of time on our website, and it's because every channel that we use, you can find on every communication channel is accessible through our website. So I'm going to, this time I'm fairly certain I'm presenting to everybody in the world, which is good. And I'm just going to revisit the things we talked about. So on our website, we talked about these moonshot pages, the 6 different moonshots that we've sourced as a network. We looked into, say, like the transportation moonshot, and we're able to skim through some of the things that they're working on. By the way, they have a blog, which is worth noting because I was talking about some of their, or not, we'll fix that later. But I believe the blog is linked elsewhere down at the bottom as a resource. So each one of these moonshots has accountable, responsible members, a repository, all of these resources here. We talked about exemplary solutions that emerge from the moonshots. These have their own pages as well and describe what the solution was. And these are part of our portfolio. Our portfolio collects all of the exhaust of our platform and is sorted by the different sort of the ways in which they've been generated. You can take a look at all of these to learn more about these projects. So that was some of the stuff that we talked about in terms of the platform and working in the open, about our blog, which is member-driven, member-sourced, and is an opportunity for any member to participate on, and has a lot of member-written posts on here that are super cool. You can subscribe to our blog, and so this is me really getting to the communication channels and how to connect with us. You can subscribe to our blog here at the top right corner of the blog site by putting in your email and subscribing. That means every time a blog posts, you'll receive an email about it. I would say there's probably no more than one blog post per week. There have been 2 at max, and they're pretty in-depth posts. The most important blog post, and the reason I would stress subscribing to our blog, especially since it's not necessarily a very loud channel, the frequency is not high, is that all of our meetups are posted to the blog. So if you ever want to know about a meetup, and there you are, Donnie, in the photo for the February 2015 meetup, looking wonderful at Hive Chicago Buzz. Every one of our February meetups are posted on our blog, and this February one is a great example. There's information about where the meetup is at, the ability to RSVP on Eventbrite. All our RSVPs for meetups are on Eventbrite. A summary of what you might find in the meetup. A recap of the previous meetup. In this case, it was about Hive Chicago Buzz. And upcoming events in our network. So these meetup blog posts are actually pretty rich sources of information about what's going on. You can check these to get caught up if you ever miss a meetup, or if you want to know what else is going on in the network. We also webcast all of our meetups. So the agendas are posted. There is a webcast, much like this one, and there's a slide deck available. Hopefully, there it is. Boom, look at that. Hi, Eve. I think maybe you may not be muted. I'm force muted. Although that's not where the sounds. Yes. Sorry, I just force muted you, but I think you can unmute yourself later. Sorry about that. Let me go back to the screen share. Cool. Cool. So hopefully everyone can see this mailing list interest form. Our mailing list is a community mailing list. It's through MailChimp. It might go to your junk mail folder. So if you sign up for Hive Chicago community mailings, you should also make sure that any emails that come from @hivechicago.org do not end up in your spam filter. That could be membership@hivechicago.org. That could be info@hivechicago.org. And so the @hivechicago.org domain is an important one to mark as trusted in your spam filters. You can also get connected to our meetups and RSVP to. This is our entire meetup schedule for the year. Under hivechicago.org, click on the Connect tab to get connected to our meetups. You can RSVP to every single one of them, except for the ones on the road. Meetups on the road are located at member organizations, and so we don't always have those set in advance of them, and we usually reveal what those are within a month or two of the actual meetup. April is TBD. If you're interested in hosting us in April, please reach out to me. So are June and October. And then there's information about becoming a Hive member. So the other channel, so we've got our mailing list. Emails typically go out maybe once a month. It's not a very loud channel. It's a pretty quiet channel. Our meetups happen once a month. And the last asset we have available to our members or other interested members of the community is Minigroup. If you have not joined Minigroup, because it's our least open forum of communication, then you need to request an invitation to Minigroup. You can make an invitation, request an invite here under item 2, under Connect at Hive Chicago. So if you click Connect, join us, or just Connect, item 2 is to join Minigroup. You can request an invite. If you are granted an invite, then you can join Minigroup. And so here's an example of Minigroup. I am part of many Minigroups. So I'm going to go to the Hive Chicago one, which is the one that you'll be invited to. A Minigroup is a great way to stay connected with the network, but it is a very loud place. So whereas the blog, the mailing list, and the meetups are fairly infrequent channels, highly filtered to be only the most important information that every single member should know, Minigroup is a community forum. So you have people posting on Minigroup who are members, are very, very diverse members of our community. Here you have a post from David Bild at the Peggy and Opar Nature Museum, or Jeff McCarter at Free Spirit. There's posts from me and Sana at the Fund, and so on and so forth. So lots of different posts happening. There's also a calendar. So I would just note that I'm not going to go through an extensive Minigroup tutorial. I'll tell you why in 1 second. But it's just a place where you can get a lot of information. So make sure you create a Minigroup account. Make sure you create a Minigroup account and you do it right. And the way that you do it right is by Minigroup guidelines and best practices post. Under important posts on the top right corner of the page. So right under your name are the important posts in the Hive Chicago member group, and one of them is Minigroup guidelines and best practices. This is a pretty, maybe a little longer than it needs to be, but a pretty succinct summary of how you should use Minigroup. If you have not quite gotten Minigroup, this is where you will get it. Please check out that guidelines and best practices document. If reading is really not your thing, oh, Jenna just posted something. If reading is really not your thing, then I did record a webinar on how to use Minigroup. It is possibly a little bit less interesting than this one. So if you're not enraptured right now, maybe reading the guidelines and best practices are the best way to go. But that webinar is available for anybody to watch. And the nice thing about the webinar is I actually annotated the different sections of the webinar. So if you click into it, you can click into specific timestamps and hear specifically about the things that might be of interest to you. So signing up for Minigroup is something every member should do. It's sort of a requirement of a member. Other staff people at member organizations are also welcome to join Minigroup, but we try to reserve Minigroup to be for our most highly invested and most highly tolerant members of our community. It is a loud place, and setting your notifications is the best way to filter that noise. Right, so those are our communication channels, which brings us to sort of the last thing on our agenda today. And that is our members and what it means to be a member, rather. And what it means to be a member is something that under Become a Member, you can find the membership guidelines. Membership guidelines were shared with everyone, are openly shared. The membership guidelines, which I'm clicking into right now, are an extensive document that covers everything I just talked about. In fact, reveal, I am just following along this member guidelines document for the orientation today. So you'll find everything I talked about covered in some level of detail with links to our website in the member guide. If you have any follow-up questions in the future, you can find answers to that here, hopefully. And I think perhaps one of the most interesting elements of it is a document we created, a table we created, to help our members understand what being a member means and expectations and benefits of being a member. So I think that the thing I'm going to close on here, and I'm going to say this fairly briefly, is that the thing about being a Hive Chicago member that is different than being an at-large member of our broader community, that is unique, that is special, is both the benefits afforded to members, but also the expectations that we have of members. So membership is not a one-way street where once you become a member, all of a sudden you have access to all this wealth and fame. And membership is also not an exclusive club. Membership is an open process that we make available to any organization in the city of Chicago. And I'm really focusing here on organizational membership, perhaps, and not so much on individual membership, which I think I'm going to not dwell on in this sort of orientation, because the people watching it are representing organizational members. But there is an individual membership component to our work that's also found on our website under Become a Member, and involves getting the Hive member badge. But when I'm talking about organizational membership, I am talking about this, this network that's open to any organization in the city of Chicago, that works with young people, that feels strongly about connected learning, that wants to advance our shared goals and have a voice in the community, in the Hive Chicago community, and get access to the funding. That is a benefit for partner members. The difference between partner and affiliate members are that partner members are nonprofit youth-serving organizations. Affiliate members are for-profit organizations, or organizations that may not serve youth directly, but do so indirectly by providing products or services to, say, educators. So membership, again, is a two-way street. It's got both benefits and expectations, and that table that I showed at the end of the member guidelines highlights some of those things. And it's really about members are expected to engage fully in the network, to come to our meetups, to sign up for a mailing list and read our blog posts, to contribute blog posts, to submit proposals to the Hive Chicago Fund, to contribute solution ideas to our moonshots, to help us curate those moonshots, to serve on the advisory committee. That doesn't mean a member has to do all of those things, because not every member organization has the capacity to do all of those things. And I guess I would close by saying that our expectation is that our members do everything they can to make our network a better, stronger, and richer network, a more focused and effective and impactful network. And the benefits that we provide are the access to that network, the access to resources that are available from our stakeholders, be they the MacArthur Foundation, the Trust, Mozilla, or other partners that we bring on in the future, and the tools that we provide as part of our platform. So I hope that made sense. I hope that was useful to everybody watching. This is definitely the portion where I'm going to jump into just open Q&A. Again, using the Q&A feature of the Q&A feature of the Hangout would be very helpful, so that I can source some questions. If you're on the Hangout right now, please, we'll just talk freely, and I'm going to kick it off. We didn't get a lot of questions in the Q&A section right now that are questions that I could just answer. They're mostly technical details about the Hangout or about the audio or video and stuff like that in the Q&A section. So I'm going to open it up if anyone wants to provide a question right now, or any of our new members who are joining us. Mike, Eve, Donnie, and Marcia, if you guys wanted to sort of just talk about anything I brought up today, or anything about Hive in general.
I have a question, Robert. Oh,
okay.
Hello?
No, go ahead.
Sorry, is the sound just too terrible? I can try to...
No, you're fine.
Okay. So I was wondering if you could talk more about partnership. I know that that's an important part of the program design and the RFP process, and that one thing that distinguishes the Hive from maybe other foundations is the real concentration on organizations partnering in order to create those innovative ideas. And so I was wondering if you could talk about a model for partnership, as well as maybe cite some examples of innovative partnerships that have come out through the Hive.
All right, Eve, way to really challenge me here. So, partnership is a difficult thing to define, and I think it's really interesting that you bring this up today at this orientation because of conversations I was just having with folks at After School Matters, for example, around building better partnerships, and a workshop that we're hoping to have in 2 weeks about the same issue. And I think I'm going to start by saying a little bit about why partnership is important to Hive, and then a little bit about what makes a good and healthy partnership. I think the reason why partnership is important to the Hive is the same reason why diversity is important to the Hive, and the same reason why meetups are important to the Hive. And I think it's about that cross-pollination of ideas, of approaches, of literacies, of competencies, of resources, and about the distribution of those things in an equitable way, and about challenging organizations to break out of their shell. On a personal note, I joined this community in the more formal way as an educator at the Adler Planetarium about 5 years ago. And when I started at the Adler, the community of youth-serving organizations in Chicago was rich as it is today, and most of the members in our network are more than 5 years old. But there was a lot of isolation and there were a lot of silos. There was a lot of territorialism around content, around competency areas, around disciplines. I think one of the great things that the Hive Chicago Fund RFP specifically did was to force, and I say force, in a non-threatening way, but to really motivate, maybe is the right word, our member organizations to break out of their shells, to cross boundaries, to reach out to organizations they never would have worked with before, because either they didn't need to or they were intimidated to, because it goes both ways. Some organizations are siloed because they're comfortable, and other organizations are siloed because they don't have access. They don't know how to partner with the Museum of Science and Industry, or with the Art Institute, or with a community-based organization like, say, Yollocalli Art Center, or Donda's House. They don't know how to communicate with that group, and they don't know how to reach out. So in some ways, the fund and the network did a great job of, pushing people into the deep end. And for the last 5 years, I think we've all been trying to learn how to swim. And it's been an interesting ride. So I would close that piece about why partnership by saying, well, connected learning. You can't make a connected learning ecosystem without connecting organizations that provide different competencies and different resources. And so that's an integral part of building that ecosystem. The what makes a good partnership question is really hard, really, context specific. But I would say that the number one most important thing about a strong partnership is about norming, is about taking that time to make sure that you're aligned around some core pieces of work, whether it's around shared goals, around resource gaps, around organizational needs, and other such elements of getting work done, whether they're practical or idealistic or philosophical. And taking that time to norm before engaging in work is really, really important. So I would say that no matter what the partnership relationship is, that time is valuable. And then the partnership relationships can vary. I mean, just in my own personal experience as a grantee who received funding from the Hive Chicago Fund to run projects at the Adler, there were some partnerships. There were partnerships with the same organizations, and in different projects, the relationships were different. In two different projects, the relationship might be a contractual one, where in some way an organizational partner had resources I needed, and they were just going to provide them for me. And in other cases, they were co-developmental. So the other organization had a set of competencies or a shared vision with me, and we co-designed an experience or solution to something. I think it depends on the situation what the nature of the relationship will be, but despite what the nature of that relationship or that partnership will be, the time spent investing in norming with your partner, coming to a shared understanding, is essential. Anyway, thanks for that question. It was a great question, and I'm happy to field anything like that. Or what do you think? I don't know. Eve, what do you think about that? Let me make it a conversation. What about you? Have you had successful partnerships in life?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense what you said about defining core competencies and turning that into a real work plan. And yeah, I guess, I mean, and one thing that impresses me about the Hive is that through leveraging this network of people who are apt to partner with each other, you do create this kind of web across the city of potential program offerings and pathways. So yeah, I guess I'm just thinking about that as we sort of think about the smart grid question and what it would look like to bring in a small startup, a university, and CPS and all of its glory. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up the ISIF challenge. I think that's going to be really exciting. The Illinois Science and Energy Innovation Foundation. See, I do know what it is. For those of you who saw me mess that up at the meetup. That's going to require some really interesting relationships to be built. And I would only caution that the first stage is a spark level. So one of the great things about the structure of the fund is that it's leveled in a way that allows you to experiment and make some mistakes at small cost before you embark upon a big initiative. And so think about that as you're trying to do something really ambitious, how you use the first stage as a proving ground. And an opportunity to norm. But I appreciate that. Mike, Donnie, do you have any thoughts or questions, feedback, chit chat?
So okay, I turn on my mic.
Yeah.
This is my first Google Hangout, so you gotta like. I think I'm Google challenged. I got my Google eyes going on. I don't know.
Nice, man. Google that.
No, I mean I like a lot of. Obviously, I like a lot of what I think Hive is working on. I kind of I'm interested just in the balance between what Hive is putting in front of people in terms of this is what we're trying to do, and this is the framework for a very expansive, very impressive, framework, and then the other way around. I guess I'm kind of interested in some collisions. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm interested to see what happens when prescriptions are thrown out the window, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to, in all the meetup or the website or these hangouts, just trying to find areas like, okay, I think something can happen there that's maybe not so much planned for, and that could be kind of exciting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really interesting point you make, because what we gain from some of the platform structures like Moonshots is focus. Oh, and I'm sorry, Mike. You might while I talk.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm getting used to that.
Sometimes there's feedback when it's like open speakers and stuff like that, but just we'll mute back. We'll like flip in and out of the mute if you want to feedback and comment. Anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is like it is tough because some of what's nice about say like the Moonshots and the fund structure and stuff like that. The order that it brings, right? And like the focus and the ability to say, here's the thing we're all working towards in this completely, diverse and like incredible space that we have. Here are the things we're working on. But that can be constraining, right? So whenever you create a system, you also block innovation, right? You block collisions, and I think that's great feedback and something we need to think about a little bit.
Sorry.
Oh, say again? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, this isn't at all a criticism. It's just the one observation I've seen so far is that it could be easy to slip into familiar places for people. In that, I see, for example, like I went around the room at the meetup and I kind of sat in, and it's, first of all, everyone's awesome, so it's not at all like a people thing. It's like really interesting groups of people. But I saw at times like some people were kind of like slipping back. You could tell what they're probably like at work. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the things that people, and myself included, I might start bringing up like, well, this is what we do and this is what I'm used to, and in a sense, it's almost like doing what I'm used to is maybe not the best use of my time. Because I do that. I don't know if that makes sense, but
makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, I mean I like that, and I think one of the things Sam tried to speak to at the last meetup is that balance that we need to find a way to achieve of giving people a place and a space to stretch themselves and to challenge themselves and to step out of their day-to-day roles in their jobs. But there's a different level of different level of flexibility amongst our network member organizations. And some of our, one of the slides I threw up at the last meetup was about the diversity of job titles that show up at our meetups. Everything from executive director to coordinator. I actually put coordinators up here and executive directors down here. But the hierarchy is represented at these meetups, and it's a diversity of hierarchical sort of positions and roles, and that's really interesting. But it also means that some people who aren't necessarily decision makers at their organizations can be put into positions where they're expected to be more flexible than they can be, and so it's tough. We always have to strike that balance between breaking boundaries and also setting up a couple, breaking formality, but also capturing the exhaust in a structured and systematic way, breaking down roles and responsibilities, but then also respecting people's it's just a delicate balance, and I think it's when we are like really functioning at optimal efficiency or whatever, when we're really nailing it, when it really works is when it's like a little bit of controlled chaos. Where the collisions and the role exploration can happen without hurting anybody and without getting out like lost in the woods and out in the weeds and losing sight of what's important.
Well, I'll at some point, not now, but I'd love to tell you about the work that I do with Ingenuity and the strategic advisory panel that I chair there. I helped put together and design this. Essentially, this night around connecting schools with organizations, and it turned into this giant speed dating night, where essentially we had over 100 schools and about 50 organizations speed date each other for an entire night with some drinks, with some booze, and at the end of this, and at the end of the evening, we even had some actual cash to support programs to give away to the people who were there, so that the relationships that they begun to frame that night, they could actually build on right away and go back and offer a workshop because they got funding. But really, at the base of it, we actually brought in a relationship, like a dating expert, to help us. Like, how can you just have people, just in terms of relationships, just kind of connect with each other and forget about what you actually do every day. It's just about, in a sense, like people, and how do you relate to the people in the room. And it was fascinating. It was fascinating. I connected Sam with Mary Ellen Messner over there because I was like, I just felt like it was a really different way to look at kind of beginning partnerships and concentrating more on relationships.
Hey, I would like to ask you some more questions about that, Mike, as well, and invite you to talk to the School Hive Moonshot group about that. I've been working with that team, and we're really interested in how we can build the infrastructure of schools connecting to organizational program offerings and making a transition between out-of-school time learning and classroom-based and standards-aligned education. So that actually sounds really exemplary for us, and potentially we're looking at doing a planning cycle where we develop a year of program offerings aimed at schools and teachers. And if you're planning on doing that event again, maybe we could work together with you on that. So please come and talk to us about it for sure.
Well, they did it we did it for music programs in schools who had music, and then they just did it last week for for theater. They're going to do it for visual arts and dance gradually. So they're doing it for every discipline. So Ingenuity actually works with CPS in the 600 schools around the city. So all of the works that we do there kind of are for giant chunks of schools. And so I would love to, yeah, just say the word.
Yeah, I mean, I was just hanging out on the Ingenuity website the other day and was looking at the Artlook map and the Artlook schools, which I'd love to get access to Artlook schools because I want to see what that looks like, and I don't know if it's okay for me to ask for that. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is one of the wonderful things about the network is the opportunity for us to pull in what works in different contexts, and and the fact that we have enough arts-based organizations in our network that we could probably tailor an offering or bring an engaging like set of people that are relevant in the field of dance or any artistic expression. Just picking one. So that's I think if we can make that connection, that'd be awesome. But I definitely think one of the coolest, not the only, but one of the cool things emerging from the Hive School conversation is about building a Hive School network and many of in borrowing from many of the great ideas that Ingenuity has developed over the last couple of years. So Mike, please bring those ideas to us, and I'd love to talk some more about it, and specifically about the dating expert and speed dating stuff. We are having a partnership relationship workshop on March 12th in support of the RFP, and we're learning. Hive's learning about the ways to do this right and best. And if you have time, it'd be great to have you there and provide some feedback. But I'd also love to bounce some ideas off of you. Cool. What about you, Donnie? You're doing good? I see you hiding there on mute. But if you have anything to add or just say hi, feel free. You're good. All right.
I guess I could say like we're working very closely with the Chicago Public Library with YOUmedia on some initiatives as it relates to teen arts, and I'm really excited about that. I just think that in our case we have similar goals as it relates to just providing access to entertainment and professional experiences for artists, and literally just had one meeting, and just from that one meeting we realized just how much how common our programs were, just in terms of how similar they were, and we have some exciting things that'll hopefully we'll be rolling out this year. And so I just think I'm excited about when you talk about that professional learning community. For me, that's what really brought Donda's House to the Hive, because we're able to kind of learn and have these conversations where if it weren't for CPL, who would we talk to professionally in this space? So that's what I'm most excited about.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that. Oh, sorry about the sound. That's wonderful, Donnie, and developing that professional learning environment and the professional learning community. And again, get your feedback on how those experiences unfold and how they support you is really important, especially when we're not providing support that you might need. So please feel free to always use these kinds of hangouts as a forum, our feedback forums at meetups, our meetups, individual conversations with us as a forum to express the ways in which we could better serve you. We're here to create that environment for you, and not to necessarily be overly prescriptive or overly facilitating. And so let's just make sure that we're striking that balance. And I'm really excited and inspired by the new members who have joined us today. Mike from Hyde Park Arts Center, Eve from Freedom Games, Donnie from Donda's House, Marsha, who's with us, Imparted from Impact Family Center. I'm really excited to have you guys here. You're already so engaged in the community, even before you joined the Hive, and more so since you have. And your insight and your experience is going to be invaluable for us. So it's already 4:30, and I'm gonna wrap this up just because nobody minds finishing early. I think we could all use that last half hour of our day to wrap up our own responsibilities. And so I'm gonna give this like a sort of a last call. Like, I don't want to cut anybody off or miss any opportunities to answer a question or to hear anybody's voice. So this is me saying, let's just do sort of a last call on questions. If there aren't any, I think we're going to sign off. So, just let me know, guys. It looks like I'm hearing from, thanks from Eve, thanks from Mike, and thanks from Donnie. That we're all good, right, guys? Everybody's happy? Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be reaching out to everybody soon about upcoming RFP opportunities, so stay tuned for that. So that will be dropping on March 2nd. So thanks for joining me, guys. Take care, and thank you for everybody who was watching this orientation online or who will be watching it later. If any questions came up, just shoot us an email. My email address is robert@mozillafoundation.org. You can also email info@hivechicago.org or membership@hivechicago.org to get your questions answered by members of the Hive staff. So thanks again for watching. Thanks again for joining. And have a wonderful snowy Thursday.